Welcome, dreamer. Let your thoughts drift away. Let the noise of the day soften into stillness. Tonight, I'll walk beside you through a city unlike any you've ever known. Not because it's strange, but because it feels like coming home. Before we begin, please put your phone away. There's nothing to watch here. No flashing scenes, no distractions. This story isn't for your eyes, it's for your mind, so you can slow down, so you can rest. Let the screen go dark, and listen carefully to my voice. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath, not the kind that fills your lungs, but the kind that pauses the world. The kind that lets you feel the current beneath everything. There is a river no map remembers. It doesn't run between lands or pour from a mountain's edge. It flows beneath memory, beneath language, beneath names. Somewhere in its depths is a city. You don't find it by traveling. You find it when your pulse slows, when silence feels wider than space, when the edge of sleep begins to dream back at you. And when you arrive, there are no signs, no gates, just a hum. Tonight, you arrive not with footsteps, but with stillness. And you remember, this story isn't for your eyes. It's for your breath. Let it guide you, below the surface, to the city beneath the river's name. You awaken standing, not abruptly, not in fear or confusion, but as if gently returned from somewhere softer than sleep. You cannot recall when you last closed your eyes, or if you ever did. There is no bed, no chamber, no sky, only standing, breathing, and beneath your bare feet, cool stone. The air is thicker than fog, but not wet. It hums faintly, like breath trapped between stone and memory. You look up, above you, suspended as if by choice. The river flows, not crashing or roaring, but drifting, a ceiling of silver current that arches silently across the vaulted space. Water glides without gravity. Schools of translucent fish drift in perfect stillness above your head, moving only when you don't look directly at them. You are not underwater, but you are not above it either. You're somewhere in between. In front of you stands a stone archway, half buried in black moss. It is massive, ancient, the kind of old that even time no longer measures. Symbols curl across its surface, not carved, but woven into the stone like veins in marble. They shift if you stare too long, becoming unfamiliar, then forgotten, then somehow understood again. The arch waits, not as a door waits to be opened, as a memory waits to be remembered. Beside it, a pedestal grown from the ground itself, and on that pedestal rests a map. It is alive, not metaphorically. You can see it breathing. Slow, rhythmic movements, like the rising and falling of a sleeping creature. The parchment glows softly, inked with lines that slide beneath its surface, like thoughts in motion. You step closer. No roads, no borders, only shapes, spirals, glyphs that resemble buildings one moment and spiral staircases the next. What you assume to be a tower begins to fold in on itself, becoming a garden. A bridge blinks out of existence, replaced by a circle of standing stones. Entire streets rearrange when you blink. The map does not show where to go. It shows how the city feels when you look at it. You place your hand gently on its edge. It exhales. The lines settle. The ink ripples once, then grows still. One path glows brighter than the rest. Not a direction, but an intention. The map has felt your pulse, and the city has responded. The archway ahead remains unchanged, but suddenly it feels aware, as if it, too, has just taken a breath, as if it has just decided you may enter. You step forward. The moss underfoot is soft, almost warm. With each step, the symbols on the arch flicker faintly, like candlelight caught in wind. You pass beneath the curve of stone, and everything shifts. Not violently, not even loudly, just differently. The hum becomes deeper, as though the very space you entered has lungs. You can feel it, a low vibration under your ribs, not unsettling, but anchoring. This city is not above the river. It is not beside it. It is beneath the river's name. And names here are not spoken aloud. They are felt. They are remembered before they are known. The path beyond the arch is lined with stones worn smooth by centuries of forgetting. They glow faintly, not from within, but from the memory of footsteps. The walls tighten, then open again into a series of descending steps that spiral downward, always downward, into warmth, into shadow, into silence. You pass a statue, or something like one, embedded in the stone wall, a figure with no face, arms outstretched in offering. Around its wrists, metal vines, etched with unreadable inscriptions. You pause. The figure seems to bow slightly. Or maybe you imagined it. You descend further, slowly, not with lungs, with awareness. Every few steps, you hear something. A whisper not made of words, a sigh not made of sorrow. It is the city noticing you, not watching, noticing. You reach the bottom of the stair. Ahead, a corridor of arched stone, lit with floating orbs the size of sparrows. Each orb contains a symbol, and when you pass them, you don't see letters. You feel them. One makes you think of waiting too long for someone who never arrived. Another fills your chest with the weight of a memory you didn't know you still carried. A third stirs a name you almost remember. And then, without sound, the orbs drift away. You step forward. The floor tilts downward. You do not stumble. You lean into it, like the first step into a dream you're ready to have. Then you see it. The first glimpse of the city. Not lit, not illuminated, glowing, like moss in moonlight, like memory, made physical. There are no towers, only forms, structures that sway slightly, even though there is no wind, archways that appear only when you look at them out of the corner of your eye, alleyways that hum if you pause too long. Entire buildings built not from stone or wood, but from forgotten emotions. Their walls shifting color depending on what you let yourself feel. This is not a city built to be navigated. It is a city that navigates you. You stand at its edge, and you breathe. The path curves to the left, narrowing between walls of dark, porous stone. It feels older here, not just in years, but in weight. The air smells of paper soaked in rain, and something sweeter underneath, like crushed herbs burned centuries ago and never fully forgotten. You descend into a chamber shaped like a basin. The space widens suddenly, and sound returns, not loud, but layered. Quiet voices, the rustle of fabric, the clinking of unfamiliar metal, the slow shifting of wooden carts. The flicker of oil flames lights the air with gold and shadow. You've arrived at the market, but not a market of food, not of coin. This is the market of forgotten trades. It lives beneath a dome of translucent stone, laced with natural veins that let in a slow, diffused glow, as if lit by the river itself, rippling gently above. Tents and stalls sprawl across the plaza, built not from canvas but from stitched memory, literal memories, sewn together into sheets that shimmer when you pass. The signs above each stall are indecipherable at first. Not language, not images. They change depending on who's looking, or perhaps depending on why you're looking. The first stall you pass has no merchant. Instead, a pair of gloves hovers in midair above a velvet cloth. They turn slowly, inviting you to reach out. You do. The moment your fingers graze the edge of the display, warmth rushes into your arm and you remember something. A good memory. You see yourself standing above a valley, spinning weather into shapes, folding fog into letters that spell forgotten names across the sky. You remember how hard it was to learn. You remember the joy of getting it right. You remember teaching it to someone else. And then, gone. The gloves fall still. You step back, dazed, as if waking from someone else's life that lived inside you for a heartbeat. This is what the market sells, not things, but crafts that were once part of you, abandoned in youth, buried in bloodlines, or inherited from dreams that faded in sleep. You continue on. A hunched woman offers broken musical instruments, flutes that play only during rainfall, violins that remember their owners. One string hums as you pass, and you feel something collapse and rebuild inside your chest. A child with no mouth hands out tiny glass animals that never stay the same shape. You hold one in your palm, it shudders, becomes a bird, then a horse, then something with too many eyes. It jumps, not away from you, but deeper into your memory, and you forget it ever existed. In a shadowed corner, a man sells incomplete alphabets, languages that were once spoken by rivers, by shadows, by the space between two breaths. When you leave his stall, you find yourself thinking in syllables that don't belong to any tongue you know. At the center of the market, beneath a banner stitched with light, a large tent opens wide. No walls, no guards, just space. Inside, a ring of tradespeople, each standing behind a curved stone slab. They do not call out. They simply wait. You approach one, a tall figure wearing a cloak made of clock hands. His eyes are not cruel. They're tired. In front of him lies a bundle of tools, hammers made of salt, threads spun from stormlight, a needle carved from bone. He gestures once, palm open. He doesn't ask you to buy. He asks if you remember. You shake your head. He nods anyway, then places something in your hands, a spool of invisible thread. It feels like warmth, like a promise, like something you used to know how to use. He says nothing, but a phrase appears in your mind. The things we stop practicing never stop belonging to us. You leave the tent, the market hasn't changed, but you have. The further you walk, the more the stalls blur, not because they fade, but because your senses can no longer carry everything you're being asked to recall. You smell leather soaked in snow. You taste ashen honey. You see a knife that cuts only silence. You hear someone weaving stories into the soles of shoes. You begin to feel full, but not heavy. Full in the way an old drawer gets full. Not just with things, but with layers of meaning. You pause at the edge of the market. A stone bench invites you to sit. When you do, a pigeon lands beside you. It has no beak, but it hums. You understand it anyway. You're not meant to keep these trades, only to remember you once could. The pigeon hops away. Beyond the market, the stone path resumes, this time narrower, more personal, as if shaped by your footsteps before you took them. You do not look back, but the market remembers you, and something within you, long buried, begins to reach forward again. The path narrows into silence and darkness. No stalls, no orbs, no whispers, only the sound of your breath and the slow rhythm of your feet against stone. The further you walk, the more the air begins to feel like cloth. Not thick, but textured, as though you're passing through something loosely woven. The walls seem to fade, not vanish. A moment, mist, the next. Then you reach the threshold, a tall opening framed by pillars etched with script that crawls slowly like moss. No door, no guardian, only an opening veiled in mist. You pass through, and the world turns quiet in a new way. Not silence, but stillness. You are in a circular chamber. The floor is polished obsidian. It reflects dim outlines of veils that hang from the ceiling, cascading downward in concentric rings. Each veil is made of something different. One ripples like water, even with no wind. Another glimmers faintly, like strands of glass woven with breath. A third is thick and dark, almost absorbing the light around it. There are 13 in total. They surround a central platform on which nothing stands, yet it draws your eye, the way a well draws thirst. You step forward. The first veil brushes your cheek. It is cold, sharp. It smells of winter and ink. The moment you pass through it, a sound echoes in your head, a bell chime you've never heard, but remember. The second veil is warmer, silken, familiar. As you move through it, you feel younger, not in body, in memory. You remember a voice calling your name the way only one person ever did. You remember the joy that voice once carried. You open your mouth to answer, but the third veil cuts the sound. It is woven from something heavier, regret, maybe, grief that hasn't been felt. As you pass through it, a sudden pressure swells behind your eyes. Not tears yet, just the promise of them. The fourth veil smells like metal. When it passes over you, everything shifts. The light bends. For a moment, the chamber disappears, replaced by a frozen garden and the shadow of someone waiting for you just beyond the gate. You blink. The chamber returns. The veils continue, each one layered with something unspeakable, a loss you haven't named, a kindness you once denied, a desire too sharp to claim. They do not harm you. They reveal you. By the seventh veil, you are no longer sure what you came here to find, but you know you are being seen, not by the room, not by the city, but by something older inside you. By the 11th veil, your body moves without effort. You feel transparent, not vanished, not invisible, just clear. And then the 13th. It doesn't move like the others. It does not ripple. It does not shimmer. It simply waits. It is white, pure, almost blinding. When you pass through it, there is no sound, no memory, only breath, and then a voice, not from the room, not from around you, from within you. What is the name you left behind? You do not speak it. You do not need to. The answer unfurls like ink in water, silent and complete. Your real name, not the one they gave you, the one the river knew before you had a body. And just like that, the veils vanish. They do not fall. They do not fade. They simply are no longer there. You stand at the center of the chamber. The obsidian platform beneath your feet begins to glow, soft silver, then violet, then deep ocean green. A circle forms. Symbols appear. Not for reading, for remembering. Each one pulses when you look at it, vibrating faintly beneath your ribs. You don't know what they mean, but you know how they feel. One reminds you of holding someone's hand in the dark. Another stirs the sense of having once told the perfect truth, even if you no longer remember what it was. A third feels like standing in rain that forgave everything. The circle completes. You feel lighter, like something has been returned to you. Not a tool, not a lesson, just presence. You are not what you've forgotten. You are what has remained. You step off the platform. The chamber is no longer round. It is opened into a corridor of lightless stone, lit only by the pulse that now beats just beneath your skin. You glance back. The veils are gone. The echoes have stilled. But something inside you has begun to breathe more deeply. You walk on toward the next place. The corridor narrows again, winding downward, and the clean stillness of the chamber of 13 veils fades behind you like a distant thought. The air thickens. The scent changes. Damp stone, rusted metal, and the faint spark of ozone. You hear a dripping sound before you see anything, steady and slow, like a leaky clock ticking just slightly out of rhythm. Then the tunnel opens. You step out into darkness, not complete, but alive. The alleys glow with a kind of gutter light, a low, pulsing bioluminescence that spills from narrow grates and open gutters cut into the walls. The stones beneath your feet are slick, uneven, and strangely warm. Pools of liquid, thick as oil, glowing a bruised violet, shimmer between loose bricks and curl into symbols before evaporating into mist. Figures move at the edges of vision, not hiding exactly, but uninterested in being known. Their silhouettes shift in impossible ways, one with too many arms, another whose shadow walks a half step ahead, not behind. They carry things, odd tools, glowing bottles, long coils of unspooled thread that stretch across doorways as if keeping something in or out. No one speaks. The alleys are soundless, save for the echo of distant footsteps, yours or someone else's, and the low hum of the gutter lights pulsing to a rhythm that does not match your heart. A cat watches you from a broken archway. Its eyes are white, not glowing, just pale, like the inside of a shell. It doesn't blink. It doesn't move. But as you pass, it disappears without sound, and the air shifts colder. Above, strings of wire crisscross the sky, hanging with tarnished objects, keys with no teeth, feathers made of metal, old hourglasses half filled with silver dust. Every so often, one tilts just slightly, spilling a fine trail of dust that vanishes before it hits the ground. You turn a corner. A sign carved into the wall glows faintly. Here dwell what the river forgets. You walk slower now. A building slumps low against the next corner, its doorway shaped like a yawning mouth, its windows blinking shut as you approach. A cart creaks past, pulled by a creature whose face is covered in black velvet, stitched where eyes should be. The cart carries stacks of stone tablets etched with phrases and languages that taste bitter just by looking at them. The alleys are not a maze. They are a test. Each turn takes you deeper, not into confusion, but confrontation. At a fork in the path, you find a mirror leaning against the wall. It is cracked. It does not reflect your face. Instead, it shows your outline, made of every choice you didn't make. You stare, and the mirror ripples. In the reflection, a version of you who stayed, who turned left, who said yes, who never left the shore. You do not flinch. You keep walking. A few steps later, a figure steps from the shadows, tall, hooded, faceless. No threat in its presence, but no comfort either. It raises a hand, points behind you. You glance over your shoulder. There's nothing there. When you look back, the figure is gone. But a single object now rests at your feet. A matchbook. You pick it up. Inside, one match left, and a phrase printed along the inner flap. Light only when you're ready to see what followed you here. You place it in your pocket. The alleys grow quieter, narrower. You feel pressure now, not dangerous, but intentional, like walking through a place built to shrink your noise, a place that wants your stillness. At the very end of the narrowest passage, you find a door. It's open, barely, just enough for you to press through sideways. And when you do, the alleys end. You stand beneath an opening in the ceiling, and the sky above, if it is a sky, shimmers with layers of light refracted through water. Above that, silence. Below you, footprints, many. All yours, none yours. A message has been scratched into the wall beside the door you just passed through. Only what survives shadow earns shape. You press your hand to it. The stone is warm. And from somewhere behind you, in the alleys you'll never return to, you hear the soft scrape of something large turning back the way it came. You do not look. You walk forward into the next layer of the city. You emerge onto a wide stone dock, carved into the side of a subterranean canal. The water is black, not from pollution, but from depth. It gleams like onyx, unmoving, stretching in either direction until the dark swallows it. The air is cold here, not bitter, but ancient, like the breath of something that remembers being a river before it had a name. A bell chimes, but no one rings it. It echoes once, and then fades into the stillness like an offering the air knows how to consume. There is a boat, long, narrow, built of twisted driftwood lashed together with silver wire. No sails, no oars, no engine. It floats silently beside the dock, bobbing only slightly as if aware of your approach, but unwilling to act until asked. The ferryman is already aboard. You don't see him at first, just the shape of someone cloaked in gray, standing perfectly still at the front of the vessel. He holds no pole, no lantern, no welcoming gesture. But you know this is for you. The moment your foot touches the wood, the boat responds, humming low beneath your soles, adjusting its balance to the exact weight of your presence. The ferryman doesn't move, doesn't turn. But the water begins to ripple, as if summoned by something deeper than gravity. The boat glides forward. No push, no sound, only motion. The city changes along the canal. Buildings stretch downward, not upward. Inverted towers made of bone-white limestone, some windowless, some with stained glass portals that shimmer without light. Vines hang from their undersides like veins drawn through stone, pulsing faintly in time with the river's breath. A procession of floating lanterns drifts overhead. They aren't lit. They glow from within, but not with fire, with memory. Each one pulses with a different rhythm, a heartbeat, a song, a whisper of someone's name spoken in a language lost before birth. You watch one float by close enough to touch. It flickers, and in that flicker, a single moment is offered to you. Standing beneath a bridge, your hand in someone else's, neither of you speaking, just breathing, just choosing not to let go. And it passes. The ferryman still hasn't moved. You wonder if he breathes, if he exists at all when you're not looking at him. Then something shifts. He raises a hand. No words, just a gesture. Sharp, deliberate, pointing ahead. You follow his gaze. A tower rises from the water. No base, no foundation, just stone erupting from liquid shadow. At its peak, a gate. Behind the gate, a door with your name on it. Not the one you use, the one you forgot. You reach out as the boat draws near, but the gate doesn't open. The ferryman finally turns. He has no face beneath the hood, only light. Not blinding, just recognition. And in that light, you understand. You may only pass if you leave something behind. He doesn't ask. He doesn't take. He simply waits. You open your hand. The single match glows warm against your palm. You strike it. The flame doesn't burn. It reveals. Smoke curls into the shape of a face. Yours. Saying something you never dared to speak aloud. A truth, small and sharp, that shaped too much. The flame goes out. You let the match fall into the canal, and the gate opens. But the door, the one with your forgotten name, remains shut. You turn to ask the ferryman what it means. He is gone. Only the boat remains. You step through the gate. The door shimmers. You don't touch it. You only remember, and that is enough. It opens, not into a room, into a sky. The boat is gone. The canal is gone. You are standing on a platform of stone, suspended in starlight. The river flows above you now, arched across the heavens like a serpent of silver ink. The stars blink like lanterns lost in deep water. Below you, the city, breathing, vast, waiting, no longer a passenger, but something older, something becoming. You descend a staircase carved into the air. There are no rails, no support, just steps suspended above the city's heart. Each one shaped from stone so dark it drinks the starlight above. You walk without fear, or maybe you carry it so completely that it cannot rise. At the bottom, a single path of mirrored tiles. They do not reflect your body, only what you feel. Each step ripples, not with light, but emotion, blooming in color and texture with each footfall. A blush of rose when you feel wonder, a crackling gray when you hesitate, a deep pulse of gold when you breathe with trust. The path ends before a house, if it can be called that. It looks like a cottage from far away, but as you approach, its size shifts. The angles warp. The chimney tilts like a question. Windows appear and vanish depending on where you stand. The roof breathes slightly, like a chest at rest. There is no door, only a curtain of white fog that trembles as you near. You step through, and the house sees you. Not your face, not your thoughts, only your emotion. The interior rearranges instantly. To your right, a corridor made of braided shadow and flickering warmth, the shape of comfort mixed with hesitation. To your left, a staircase that weeps. Every step down glows with soft green light. Every step up is wrapped in cold mist. Ahead, a room. You walk toward it. Its walls are made of woven glass, shifting and breathing like lungs. The floor is not solid. It is emotion given shape. You step onto what feels like a memory of love. Warm, uneven, tinged with regret. A mirror waits inside the room. It does not show your reflection. It shows what you refuse to feel. You watch, and slowly, the mirror changes. A face turned away just before an apology was made. A pair of hands releasing something that should have been held tighter. You do not look away, and the house responds. The room expands, stretching wider, deeper. The ceiling lifts and reveals a skylight made of thought. Shapes drift across it, clouds formed from unspoken words, stars charted by hope. The house does not speak, but it listens, and it remembers. Each room shifts as you enter. One is filled with red velvet and candlelight, echoing joy too large to hold. Another is an endless hallway, lined with doors that pulse with anxiety. Behind each, a moment you thought had disappeared. They do not open unless you knock. You choose one. You knock on the door, and it opens. And inside, a single memory, paused. A moment where you laughed, truly laughed. The kind that makes your body forget itself. You step into it, just for a second. And when you step back, the hallway is gone. Suddenly, you're in a kitchen. Wooden counters, copper pots, sunlight that doesn't exist anywhere else. It smells like something baking, something your bones remember but cannot name. In the center of the table, a cup of water. You take a seat at the table, and the water speaks, not in voice, but in presence. Do you know how you feel? Not, are you okay? Not, what are you feeling? Just, do you know? You lift the cup, and nothing changes, except that now you do know how you really feel. Even if you can't name it, even if you can't share it. Behind the table, a big mirror. It just came out of nowhere. You find yourself back in the mirror. But now, it shows something new. Not you, but a place inside you that doesn't need to be seen to be real. You touch the glass, and it shatters silently into mist. The house exhales. Walls dissolve. Roof vanishes. And you stand beneath the open sky once more. But the air smells different now, like recognition, like you've been understood without ever being explained. A soft path extends ahead, lit by lanterns that burn with no flame, only feeling. You walk it, not lighter, not heavier, but whole. The house does not vanish behind you. It simply waits for the next version of you to arrive. The lantern-lit path leads you into a tunnel that arches downward, the walls growing slick with moisture, the air heavy with the smell of paper left too long in rain. There's a silence here that hums with thought, not emptiness, but anticipation, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. You round a bend, and there it is. The ink cathedral. Its spires rise like stalactites inverted, carved from layers of parchment and stone dyed black with liquid text. The ceiling is impossibly high, vanishing into a shroud of drifting script. Ink made smoke, language without source. You step through the wide archway entrance, and the entire space exhales, soft, warm, alive. There is no altar, no pews, only pages. Millions of them. They flutter underfoot, bound together in a floor that shifts with every step. Words rise as you walk, forming brief phrases before sinking again. She never said it aloud. A promise left in a letter, never sent. He remembers only the sound of the rain. The air tastes like old ink in memory. Above you, stained glass panels curve overhead, not with saints or symbols, but with flowing handwritten letters. Entire walls shimmer with translucent sentences written in scripts that flicker as if deciding whether to be remembered. Some in languages you understand, some you feel instead of read. In the center of the cathedral, a pool, not of water, but of ink. It glows softly, not black, but shifting shades of midnight, navy, and amethyst, colors that live only in dreams you wake from too quickly. The surface is still reflective. You approach. It knows you're here. You kneel at its edge and peer in. Not your reflection seen, but your story, spooling across the surface like film, moments drawn not from memory, but from beneath it. A time you were silent, and it meant everything. A time you spoke, and it cost you. A time you listened. The ink responds not to touch, but to emotion. The more you feel, the more it reveals. Not to overwhelm, but to align. You dip a fingertip in. The ink pulls upward, forming a quill. It hovers, waiting, not to write, but to be written with. You lift it, and suddenly, pages around you fly open. Books that hadn't been visible now reveal themselves from the cathedral's hidden corners, fluttering open midair. Each page bears someone else's name, and someone else's silence. You walk slowly through the nave, quill in hand. Words appear before you write them, but only when you feel. You pause before a pedestal. A blank page sits upon it. You feel the ache of something never said, and the ink takes shape. I missed you even when I was right beside you. You walk again. Another page. This time, relief. You didn't need to understand. You stayed. The cathedral does not judge. It collects. It keeps. Somewhere deeper inside, you glimpse other pilgrims. Silent figures moving through the script, touching pages, leaving pieces of their unspoken lives behind in black and violet script. One kneels beside a wall and weeps. The tears never hit the floor. They rise, caught by drifting scraps of paper that glow gently as they absorb each drop. You are not here to confess. You are here to remember, to reclaim what was once only felt, to give it shape. You stop before the pool again and return the quill to the ink. It dissolves without a ripple. Above, the stained glass script shimmers with your words, not for others, for the cathedral itself, a place that keeps your inner weather and never asks for repayment. You stand, and a door opens, not from the wall, but from the ink itself. It parts like fabric, revealing stairs of handwritten stone leading downward into shadow. You descend, and as you go, your steps echo with words never said aloud, but finally known. The staircase carved from inkstone leads downward, further than feels possible. The deeper you go, the cooler the air becomes, tinged with salt and silt, as though the walls remember the ocean even if they've never touched it. You begin to hear water long before you see it, not flowing, not rushing, just the quiet weight of it, pressing against the edges of something ancient and hidden. At the bottom, the steps end in a small alcove with a stone arch overhead. The room beyond glows faintly with a blue-green luminescence, filtered like light seen from beneath waves. You step through, and suddenly you're inside a space that shouldn't exist. A library, submerged in water. And yet, you can breathe. The water surrounds you completely, but it behaves like air. You feel no pressure. Your clothing remains dry. Each movement stirs currents that shimmer like ink released into warm tea. All around you, books, thousands of them, suspended in the water like leaves in still autumn air. Some glow faintly. Some are bound in kelp. Others are wrapped in silver twine or etched into crystal. Shelves rise and fall like coral formations, natural, labyrinthine. You reach toward one book floating nearby. It turns on its own, opening gently to the center. Not pages, but a memory. Yours, rendered not in language but sensation. Rain against a classroom window. The sound of your name, spoken with kindness when you needed it most. You close the book. It seals itself and drifts away. Another comes near, this one bearing someone else's memory. A language you don't know, but feel all the same. Joy, pain, uncertainty, like fingerprints pressed into the water. The submerged library doesn't organize by title or author. It arranges by resonance. The things people tried to forget or tried to remember so deeply they became more than memory. They became place. You move carefully through the stacks. Occasionally, a trail of bubbles escapes a spine. Occasionally, the book watches you. One shelf hums as you pass. It holds volumes wrapped in pale cloth, tied with fine threads. They pulse softly. When you reach toward one, it unravels, revealing a memory not yet lived. A future you once imagined in the quiet between two heartbreaks. You inhale. The scent here is impossible to name. Ancient, soft, like driftwood warmed by sunlight filtered through memory. A guide appears, not a person. A shape made of luminous filaments, shaped like a seahorse perhaps, or a winding script. It drifts beside you, curious but never intrusive. It pauses before a dark alcove, then looks to you as if asking. You follow. This chamber is smaller, no books, just a pedestal with a single sealed journal atop it. The leather is old, blue-black with age, the edges softened as if thumbed through for years, then forgotten. You open it. Inside, your handwriting. But you never wrote this. Still, you read, there was a version of me that might have stayed, that might have chosen softness instead of speed, that listened longer, hurt slower. I miss them sometimes, but I am who I am, and I am still becoming. You close the book with trembling hands. It does not vanish. It waits. The filament guide wraps softly around your wrist. Not tight, just there. A presence. You leave the alcove and return to the library's heart, where columns of glowing coral rise into the murky heights above. Between them, a central dome, a reading chamber. Inside, other wanderers sit in silence, reading, remembering. One holds a scroll so delicate it appears made of fog. Another turns the pages of a tome bound in whisper-thin silver, each page becoming a butterfly as it turns, flying upward and vanishing. You find your seat, not labeled, but unmistakably yours. The library brings you a book. Its title is Your Heartbeat, and its pages are filled with every version of you that never made it this far, each one grateful that you did. When you rise, the room doesn't shift, but something inside you does. The guide nods, or pulses, once, and then is gone. A door opens in the coral. You step through it, upward, not back toward air, but toward the next unknown. The corridor from the submerged library coils upward like a spiral shell. As you ascend, the feeling of weight returns. Not heavy, not oppressive, just presence, as though gravity has remembered you. You emerge into a garden that ticks. There is no other word for it. It ticks, not with menace, not with urgency, but with rhythm, the rhythm of moments unfolding, the rhythm of now. The garden stretches outward in every direction beneath a sky of glass and gold, domed like a cathedral or a womb. Plants grow here in the shapes of mechanisms, ferns that furl and unfurl like mainsprings, vines coiled like gears. Their movement is not rushed. Everything here turns slowly, elegantly. And everywhere, clocks. Some tower over hedges like ancient oaks, their faces carved in stone or brass, etched with constellations instead of numbers. Some are the size of teacups, growing on stalks like blossoms. Others float midair, ticking gently, always in sync with one another, until you pass them. Then they shift. One ticks backward, another stops entirely. One speeds up, then slows again to match your breath. You step onto the path, which is made of polished fragments, clock hands, winding keys, pendulums turned flat and pressed into earth. Your steps echo slightly, like walking across time. You pass a tree whose bark is etched with hourglasses. Instead of leaves, it has translucent discs that shimmer with each breath of wind. Each disc shows a different moment, not images, but impressions. One glows with excitement, one with waiting, one with the exact taste of regret. You don't touch them, you feel them. A soft chime sounds behind you. You turn. There's a door standing alone in the garden. No walls, just the door itself, gently ticking. You open it. Inside is a room with no ceiling and no floor, just clocks. Some stacked, some suspended, all turning in slow, synchronized dance. In the center, a sundial, despite the absence of sun. You walk toward it. Your shadow follows, but does not match you. It points to a time you don't remember. Not a time on a clock, a time in your life. You stand still and the shadow begins to move. Not forward, not back, but inward. Suddenly, you remember being held as a child. The sound of a heartbeat not your own. The certainty of being loved, even without understanding it. The sundial pulses once with a low hum. You step back, and the room resets. The clocks whisper to each other, too low to hear, but not too low to feel. Outside, the garden has changed. The sky is darker now, more indigo than gold. The plants glow faintly, like bioluminescent roots under skin. A woman sits at the edge of a fountain shaped like an overturned hourglass. She is winding a pocket watch made of smoke. She doesn't look up, but she speaks. Clocks are not about time, she says. They are about rhythm, and rhythm is about memory. You say nothing, but she nods, as if you did, then vanishes. The fountain ticks once. You move on. The next part of the garden is a maze of mirrored clock faces. You see yourself reflected in hundreds of ways. Older, younger, turned away, looking back. In one reflection, you're smiling at someone you no longer remember. In another, you are crying, but at peace. You try to follow your reflection. It never quite goes where you do. Eventually, the path narrows again. One last clock stands alone in a circle of stones. Its hands are broken, its face blank. But when you approach, you understand. This one is yours. Not because it keeps time, but because it keeps you. You place your hand on it. It begins to tick, not forward, not backward, but true. The sky above flickers. You step through a small gate made of woven vines and brass. No sign, no chime. Just breath. And the ticking fades behind you. Not lost, just unnecessary now. The garden's final path tapers into a quiet slope that leads you to the edge of a canyon. But instead of stone or sand below, there is water, smooth, still, silver. The Mirror River. You wouldn't have known it was moving if not for the drifting of pale petals along its surface. Too perfect, too even, not a ripple. And yet the river flows. There is no sound, no wind, only the quiet gleam of motion, and a pale bridge arcing over the expanse made not of wood or stone, but of glass. You step onto the bridge. It does not creak or shift. It sings. Each step releases a tone, a note that fades into silence before the next one begins. You try to rush once, just to see, and the melody stumbles. So you slow down, walk with care, and the music aligns again. Below, the river reflects not just your body, but yourself. Not your face, your truth. At first, it's subtle, a flicker in the water's sheen, a version of you standing taller, eyes softer. Then more, versions that smile differently, breathe differently, ones who made choices you did not, ones who lost things you never found, ones who loved more freely or less. The bridge continues, and the reflections grow stranger. You see yourself standing in rooms you've never entered, on mountaintops, in quiet cafes, beneath unfamiliar moons. Each step forward is like peeling away a layer of forgetting. You stop halfway across. The wind shifts, but it doesn't touch your skin. It touches your memory. Suddenly, a scent, petrichor, and tea leaves. A specific hug, a laugh you'd long buried. It's not painful. It's just true. You kneel at the center of the bridge and look down. The river no longer shows reflections. It shows echoes. Moments you spoke bravely. Moments you didn't. Moments you were held, even if you didn't see it then. You place your hand on the surface. The water doesn't ripple. It listens. And then, one image rises from the river's surface, like mist, solid, silver-threaded. It's not you. It's someone you left behind, or someone who left you. They look up and smile. Not a haunting, but a remembering. They place their hand to the water's edge, mirroring you, and then slowly sink beneath the surface, leaving nothing but a single glowing petal. It drifts toward your side of the bridge. You pick it up. It's warm and humming. You press it to your chest, and everything in you stills. The far side of the bridge narrows, wrapped in silvery trees, whose trunks gleam like polished bone. The path splits, not visibly, but inside you. Two sensations, forward and stillness, future and presence. You do not choose. You simply walk, and the path becomes one again, At the river's edge now, a stone bench, impossibly smooth. A lantern sits beside it, flickering faintly, its light reflecting the shape of your own breath. You sit. You do not cry. But if you did, the river would hold it. Not as grief, but as a gift. You stay for a while, long enough, and when you rise, the pedal you carried is gone, absorbed. Not lost, but given. The path curves gently toward a new sound. Not rushing water, not ticking. Just silence, held with reverence. Ahead, an archway formed from driftwood and quartz. You step through and leave the river behind, but not its reflection. That you carry now, everywhere. The arch behind you closes silently, like a page turned in a book you hadn't realized you were reading. Now the path becomes narrow, not confining, just focused. The walls here are made of soft clay and polished stone, the kind of surface that absorbs everything: footsteps, breath, thought. And then you realize there is no sound. Not muffled, none. Even the beat of your heart has vanished from your ears. The path opens into a circular chamber, vast and featureless, except for the color. A pale blue glow emanates from everywhere and nowhere, as though the walls themselves remember the sky. In the center hovers a chair. It doesn't rest on legs. It floats, not in defiance of gravity, but in surrender to stillness. You approach slowly, feeling the absence of every step. The lack of sound is so complete, it becomes its own presence. Your thoughts echo faintly, not in the air, but in the feeling of the room itself. You sit. The chair holds you as though it always has. Not comfort, recognition. And in this silence, something begins to happen. Not around you, but within. Emotions rise. Not loud, not fast. Like sediment stirred by the softest current. They drift upward. The moments you'd stored deep beneath distraction and movement and noise. A gaze you broke. A goodbye you never got to say. A kindness you offered when you thought it wouldn't matter, but it did. None of it speaks, but all of it is felt. The walls begin to change, not visibly, just enough to catch your attention. Light pulses across their surfaces, not forming words, but patterns, not images, but memories, abstract and emotional. Joy swirls in a soft spiral. Regret flickers like lightning behind glass. Longing shimmers with the color of deep water. You do not cry, you breathe. You do not reach for understanding, you allow. And the room listens. For a long moment, you feel as though the chamber isn't separate from you. It is you, the part of you that has always been quiet, always been still, but never been empty. You stand, but there is no sound. There is clarity. You feel lighter, not unburdened, but understood. The chair does not vanish. It simply waits for the next dreamer. A doorway appears in the far wall, soft-edged and glowing like the opening of a cocoon. You step through, and behind you, the silence closes, not to trap, but to protect. You walk away without hearing your footsteps, but you carry the stillness with you, and it will never leave. The corridor from the silent chamber curves one final time. The light ahead, warm and golden, not bright, but soft, like a memory unfolding. There is no rush. The air itself seems to slow you, like walking through the last verse of a lullaby. And then, a door. It stands alone at the end of the hall. No handle, no lock. Not large, nor imposing. It's made of something not quite wood, not quite stone. It breathes, almost pulsing in a rhythm that matches your own. Not your heartbeat, something deeper, the rhythm beneath your breath. You approach and stop. The door does not open. It waits. It is not testing you. It is recognizing you. The surface glows faintly, and across its grain, a series of lines begins to emerge, not carved, but revealed. A pattern, a language, but not one you can read with your eyes. You place your hand against the surface, and something inside you stirs. Not a memory, a name. Not the one you carry in the world, the one beneath it, the one the river knew. It rises slowly, like fog lifting, like breath drawn before a word finally spoken. You do not say the name aloud. You remember it, and that is enough. The door opens, without sound, without light spilling out. Just a shift. A threshold. You step through and find not a room, not a chamber, not even a space, just presence. Light surrounds you, not bright, not blinding, just soft and endless, like dawn stretched thin across a sky that remembers you. The light holds no edges, no floor, no ceiling, and yet you are grounded, supported. Around you, echoes rise, not voices, places, moments. Every step you've taken through the city returns now. The whisper of the ink cathedral, the breath of the clock garden, the hush of the submerged library, the warmth of the mirror river. They are not memories. They are notes in a song. Your song. You stand at the center of the light and breathe. Above you, the light begins to fold, gently revealing not a sky, but a city. Not beneath, not above, but within, structures shaped by feeling. Archways formed from choices, towers from tenderness. Every hallway you walked is now a vein through a body of meaning. And the river, it flows through everything. It isn't water. It's time, emotion, truth. And it carries your name now, the one you remembered, the one you reclaimed. The city welcomes you, not with applause, not with ceremony, with silence and breath and light. You are no longer walking through the city beneath the river's name. You are part of it, and it is part of you. You will carry it with you, even if you never return, even if you forget the path, or the sound of the ink, or the weight of the petal in your hand. Because it is not just a city, it is the part of you that waited, and never stopped believing you'd find your way back. You smile, and take one final breath, not goodbye, just stillness. The river flows on, and you flow peacefully with it. Good night, dreamer. Sleep well, dream tight.